In a quiet village, nestled among fields and forests, lived a young boy named AaliZil. He was no ordinary boy. AaliZil carried a deep love for every living creature, believing that even the smallest life held immeasurable value. He spent his days exploring the woods, not as a conqueror, but as a friend, learning the silent language of the animals that lived there. He knew the chirps of the sparrows, the rustle of the rabbits, and the quiet gaze of the deer. For AaliZil, the world was a grand family, and he was its devoted guardian. It was a cry, thin and fragile, barely audible but filled with terror. It seemed to come from the direction of the river, near an old dilapidated shed that leaned precariously against the wind. While others sought shelter, AaliZil's protective instincts took over. He pulled on his rain jacket, his mind fixed on that tiny sound of suffering. He had to know what it was. He had to help. Without a second thought for his own safety, AaliZil pushed open his door and plunged into the heart of the storm. The wind fought him at every step, trying to push him back, and the rain soaked him to the bone in an instant. The ground had turned to slippery mud, making each step a struggle. He followed the sound, his determination a small, warm flame against the cold, violent night. The cries grew a little louder as he neared the riverbank, guiding him through the treacherous landscape like a beacon of distress. He finally reached the old shed, its wooden planks groaning under the assault of the storm. And there, in a muddy hollow being rapidly filled by the rising river, he found them. A mother cat, her fur matted and her body trembling, was desperately trying to shield her newborn kittens from the cold, swirling water. The tiny creatures, no bigger than his hand, were mewing pitifully, their small bodies shivering uncontrollably in the mud. They were trapped, and fear was written in the mother cat's wide green eyes. She looked at AaliZil, not with aggression, but with a desperate plea for help. Seeing their plight, AaliZil's heart ached. He knelt in the cold mud, ignoring the rain streaming down his face. His own safety was the last thing on his mind. He carefully unzipped his jacket, creating a warm, dry pouch against his chest. One by one, he gently lifted the tiny, shivering kittens from the mud, wiping them as best he could before tucking them safely inside. They were so fragile, their lives hanging by a thread. The mother cat watched him, her fear slowly giving way to a flicker of trust. Once the kittens were secure, AaliZil stood up and turned to her. He spoke in a soft, reassuring voice, beckoning her to follow. With a final hesitant glance at the rising water, she did, staying close to his heels as he led the way to safety. The storm showed no signs of letting up. The wind howled, and the river continued to swell, swallowing the spot where the kittens had been just moments before. AaliZil knew he couldn't take them back to the village just yet. The path was too dangerous. He needed to find shelter, and he needed to find it now. Stripped bark from fallen logs and gathered handfuls of dry leaves and grass from beneath the densest bushes where the rain had not yet reached. His hands grew tired and raw, but his resolve never wavered. He worked tirelessly, piece by piece, building a small but sturdy shelter against the elements. Inside, he laid a thick bed of the driest materials he could find, creating a warm, soft nest for the tiny family. He gently placed the kittens into the nest, and the mother cat immediately curled around them, her purrs a low rumble of gratitude and relief. He was cold, wet, and exhausted, but his heart was full. He had faced the storm, and, in a small corner of the world, he had won. He had turned a moment of terror into one of peace, and that was all that mattered. The long night finally passed, and as the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, the storm began to recede, too. The wind softened to a whisper, the rain dwindled to a drizzle, and a quiet calm settled over the land. When AaliZil emerged from the shelter, he saw a world washed clean, glistening in the morning light. The mother cat and her kittens were safe, and a deep sense of satisfaction filled him. But as he looked around, he noticed something truly wonderful. He wasn't alone. Drawn by an instinct they couldn't explain, other animals had begun to gather near his makeshift shelter. A pair of small, lost puppies huddled together for warmth. A few baby rabbits, their burrow flooded, trembled nearby. Even a few young birds with soaked and ruffled feathers had found their way there, along with a little goat who had been separated from its herd. It was as if they could sense the kindness that radiated from AaliZil, a silent promise of safety in a world that had just been turned upside down. They saw him not as a human to be feared, but as a protector. Looking at the collection of frightened, vulnerable creatures, AaliZil knew his work was not done. The small shelter was not enough. They needed a real home, a place where they could be safe from any future storms. He returned to the village, his heart filled with a new purpose. He shared his story, not of his own bravery, but of the animals' desperate need. The villagers, moved by his compassion and courage, readily offered to help. Men, women, and children came together, their spirits lifted by AaliZil's example. Using salvaged wood from the storm and fresh timber from the forest, they began to build. It wasn't just a shed, it was a home. They built a large, sturdy structure with warm stalls, soft nests, and plenty of space. The villagers brought food, blankets, and fresh water. In time, AaliZil's animal shelter became a symbol of hope and compassion throughout the region. The village was no longer known just for its quiet fields, but for its big heart. It became a place where people and animals coexisted in harmony, a testament to the idea that kindness knows no species. He was known far and wide as the boy whose courage was strong enough to face a storm.